I want to say good morning, fellas. I hope that wherever you are, it's a great day. At least here it is. One thing that I wanted to talk about very, one thing that I wanted to touch upon very briefly is, well, I stumbled across a video that was quite motivating, and I don't necessarily want to alliterate the points that were made in the video. What I specifically wanted to address is that this is maybe a different perspective than that most people actually provide you with when they talk about motivation and discipline. Mm, at least maybe some people figured it out for themselves, but for me personally, if I need to get discipline, I think that if I've tried a lot of times trying to stay disciplined without motivation, that's very difficult. And let me actually just explain a little bit better because this is a little bit too broad and vague. What I mean is, like, if you have a goal, if you set a goal for yourself, for example, going every day to the gym, because you want to get into a better shape. Well, that's a goal, and usually there is some kind of underlying motivation. There is like this thing that you really there is something within you that says, okay, I really want to do this, so that you don't really need to motivate yourself because it's intrinsic value and intrinsic motivation instead of like it comes from the inside. The point I wanted to make is, as long as you run on the motivation to work towards that goal, it's kind of easy. And with motivation, let's approach it a little bit more biological. It's simply that you still receive your dopamine to keep pursuing that same goal. But as biological creatures, there will eventually be an inflection point where your motivation will drop, where your dopamine won't get out for you to get to that goal. And where you had a very nice 6 day streak, it's now back to square one because you say, oh yeah, today doesn't work out and I will do tomorrow. One day is not a huge problem, and then you know the second time you skip it is not a problem again. So, and then a lot of people say, okay, you know what the cure to this is? Just be disciplined. Just say to yourself, it's non-negotiable. I go to that even if I don't like it, and that's how I train this neuropathical sine way. What? Neuro neuroscientific pathway, something like that. That's a little bit more like those neurocorrections in your head so that it becomes a habit. And while this is factually completely true, and this is certainly one method of going forward, I mean, I could technically do it, and then I would definitely probably create good habits. I think there is also another thing that you can do, another realization that might help a lot of people. That's different to this forcing and pushing yourself through a process to change your habits because it works. I mean, I haven't seen them personal experience, but I believe it works. It's written a lot of stuff about it. But the counter side, or the second option that you have, and I will actually quick stop and go again. So what I wanted to say is the second option that you have, instead of like forcing yourself through it with pushing, is to be kinder to yourself. And that sounds completely like, what is that? What does it mean in practice? So if you set a goal like, I want to go to the gym because I want to live a more healthier life, and then if you say to yourself, okay, today I skip, or when that day comes that you feel like, today I might skip, if you pursue this goal with the idea that if I don't reach this goal, I'm a failure, if that's stuck in your head, then then you need to have a lot of discipline. Life becomes a little bit more easier, I feel like, if you just say to yourself, "Oh, okay, um, yeah, I didn't feel like going to the gym today, but that doesn't change much," and well, you just embrace. Well, okay, here I'm totally not knowing what I'm actually, which point I wanted to work towards. To be fair, kind of thinking. Okay, one thing that I feel like is very biologically relevant for this one is look at it biologically. If you run out of the dopamine to actually go towards the thing that you wanted to, or you misscheduled, or whatever, there are a billion of reasons. If you start to then push on yourself through discipline and say, I need to go now, or else, well, that else side is what I wanted to touch upon. So, what if you don't do it and you feel stuck with this feeling of being a failure, or this feeling of, um, yeah, just negative emotions because um, you've not done what you intended to do. You have set a goal, but you failed to reach the goal because you put a lot of weight on on reaching that goal. If you then cut that out and lower the expectation, um, lower the being harsh for yourself, then what you get is you get less negative emotions. And why I say that is because I think that biologically speaking, if you if you don't run on this discipline way of obtaining dopamine, or if you don't get these negative feedback, like negative emotions need to be processed eventually, or you need to get over them. And if you, because otherwise they are just a burden in your way. And if you just don't allow those negative emotions to stack up, it's easier to get back into the thing. I think that's kind of the point what I was saying. So if you really thrive on this intrinsic motivation that runs out and then you need to start over to discipline and force, then it can work. But I feel like if you skip them one day, it's becoming much more easier for your brain to say, oh, well, I still feel tired and let's do it a second time. Whereas if you just don't really care about that goal and don't have a high expectation and all, like, okay, I'm fine that it failed today, but let's immediately switch your brain to like, we failed this goal today, but let's go for another one because we can do it. You know? Then things start to change because then you keep on running on intrinsic motivation, but not certain, but not specifically towards a goal. So you run more, your engine runs more smoothly, and you might not create the habits in the way that you would with the first method. But I feel like being easy on yourself definitely helps to get a more positive mindset that eventually might lead you to the same desired result. Okay, I think that was very nice. So I think actually with what I just said, I think that's like the main message I wanted to get across. Um, and all that I will add now is kind of nonsense, to be honest. That's not what I was preparing for. In fact, I don't prepare for this. I didn't prepare for this video at all. I just, I will just say what caused it. What's one of the reasons it caused it? I was like, I woke up and felt a little bit like, yeah, you know, well, it wasn't a very good morning. Yesterday we had a very good meeting, but I felt like it totally spiked up my adrenaline and my dopamine levels. So when I got home at 12 in the uh, uh, at midnight, that's like 3 hours after, 3 to 2 hours later than I would usually enter bed. But here comes the thing: I was so running on adrenaline and dopamine that I couldn't really fall asleep. So yeah, that wasn't nice. So I didn't get a lot of quality of sleep. Woke up this morning at exactly the same time as I usually would, at 7, and that's way too little sleep for me. So it was like, this is not gonna be good. I didn't wake up nicely. I walked into the kitchen and I saw the apple pie, and I was like, yeah, this is the first thing that I'm gonna eat today. Even though I know that I want to stop eating sugars, and I looked at it and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do it because I really wanted to. And of course, if I keep having this mentality, then I will never create the habit of completely quitting eating sugar. But at the same time, if I constantly need to force myself away from sugar, I don't really think that, yeah, then you're just denying yourself pleasure. And denying yourself pleasure is a very problematic, because I think if you deny yourself of pleasure, then eventually your whole dopamine system will be rewired, and that's, I think, not a good thing that you want to have. So that's the last bit. Okay, I filled it up, and now we are over 10 minutes. Yikes! So that's very cool. I know my mobile phone is also about to die, so I want to leave it at this. And I want to say that this different perspective of pursuing goals is hopefully able to help some people out with their struggles to work towards goals. Because I think there's being more kind for yourself and lowering expectations really can help a lot of people who are struggling with the build motivation, build discipline, and go for your goal kind of mentality mindset. And if this is able to help some people, well, that would make me very happy. So, but even if it's not, I wouldn't really care. It was nice recording this video, and I probably get value out of it myself as well. So, well, I want to thank you for watching, and of course, all the things that I say in my videos, they are purely my own opinions, and I come to the conclusions based on the things that I've researched myself. So if you want to fact check, then I would highly recommend to not just take my word for it, but also do your own research. And with having said that, I just leave it off with, it's a good morning. I hope it's a good morning or a good day wherever you are, and I hope to see you back in maybe a future video. Okay, cheers, goodbye, see ya.